Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this session on with Kristen Vossen with 2x2 character development. We are going to explore the latest research and importance of explicitly teaching core values. This session is aligned with the North Dakota Quality Standards for out-of-school time programs, specifically the domain of relationships and interactions. And to get the most out of this session, we ask that you please set aside any possible distractions, turn your cameras on, and get ready to load up your toolkit with lots of fun and engaging ideas that you can immediately use in your program. We also hope that you walk away feeling empowered and rejuvenated in the work that you do. I will be helping to monitor the chat box throughout this session, so feel free if you have any questions or comments to take yourself off mute or put it in the chat box. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kristen. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, good morning, everyone. I have to tell you, it's a little tricky. I've got multiple screens going, so I'm sorry if I'm not directly looking at you, but I can see all of you. So. Well, welcome to Empowering Kind-Hearted Kids. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. I hear you have snow. Is that true? Yes, you're shaking your heads. And I'm here in Iowa, in Dubuque, Iowa, so not too far from you. We have flurries. So nothing is sticking like it is sticking up in North Dakota. But we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share a screen. Bear with us. We'll see if everything kind of goes smoothly. If not, well, we'll figure it out. So I'm excited, though, to get to know you. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing. And I love it that it's Kristen and I'm Kristen. So this is easy. We even have our names spelled the same way. Okay. Let's get started. And we'll see if we can get this going here. Okay. How does that look to you all?
We're good to go.
Okay. Well, I cannot see you, which is so sad. I'm not sure why, but so definitely let's use our voices as well. If you have anything, and Kristen, if you can help me out on your end too, that would be great. Okay, so today we're going to go ahead and talk about empowering kind-hearted kids. Before we dive into the meat of everything, we're going to do just a really fun little icebreaker. I know you don't know me yet. I don't know you all. So we're going to do something fun that's just called Your One Smart Cookie. And here are the simple directions. One person is going to begin by stating their name and where you are from and your favorite type of cookie. So right now you need to think, I don't mean to get you hungry because I know it's about snack time, but think about what your favorite cookie is. Okay. Once you say your name and where you're from, and let's go ahead and give the city and state, or obviously you're from North Dakota, so city would be good. And maybe your school. And then you're going to say, my name is, and tell me where you're from and what kind of cookie you like. We're all going to answer those, so you will have to unmute yourselves. You're just going to say good morning to whoever it is. You have to remember their name, your one smart cookie. So I will model, and let's see if I can hear you. So unmute yourselves. So my name is Kristen. I'm from Dubuque, Iowa. And my favorite cookie is peanut butter. So everybody will respond. And I don't know, can you see me?
Yes.
Great. So I want to make sure you get your hands going like this. You're going to say, good morning, Kristen, you're one smart cookie. Are you ready? Good morning, Kristen.
One smart cookie.
There you go. All right. So somebody just begin.
My name is Stephanie, and I'm from Valley Edinburgh Schools in Hoople, North Dakota, and my favorite cookie is Monster cookies.
Good morning, Stephanie. You're one smart cookie. Do you notice that we actually think about her cookie than her name? win. So Stephanie, I had to go, okay, I hope everybody remembers because I'm thinking of your cookie, of your monster cookie, which is such a good one. So anyway, someone else go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hi,
My
I'm
name's-
Courtney. Courtney Shuley from the Northeast Education Services Cooperative, and my favorite cookie is a ginger snap.
Ginger snap. All right. Well, good morning.
Courtney.
Courtney, you're
One
one
smart
Smart
cookie.
cookie.
Go ahead. Don't be shy.
Good
My
morning.
name's
This
Nikki
is
from
Betty
Minto. Oh, see. Hi, Betty.
Hi. Go ahead, Nicole, go ahead.
Anyway, I like monster cookies too.
Awesome. And it's Nicole, right?
Yeah, from Minto.
All right. Well, nice to meet you. Well, good morning,
Morning,
Nicole.
Nikki,
You're
one
one
smart
smart
cookie.
cookie. We're
Good
getting this.
morning. I'm Betty Bean. I'm from Midway School. I live over by Emerado, and my favorite cookie is chocolate chip.
Ooh, and do you like them warm or a little
Oh,
crunchy?
I'll take them anyway, warm, cold. It's all good.
You're easy. Okay. Now I forgot your name.
Betty.
How could I forget Betty? That's such a cool name. Well, everybody, good
morning, Betty.
Betty.
You're
One
one
smart
smart
cookie.
smart cookie. Next. Who else?
Good morning. I'm Lori Zaradka from North Valley Career and Technology Center in Grafton, and my favorite cookie is also chocolate chip.
Awesome. A lot of chocolate chippers this morning. Wow. Good
morning, Lori. You're one
one
smart
smart
cookie.
cookie. Thank you, Lori.
All right, I'll go. This is Wendy. I'm up in Northwood. My favorite cookie is a good sugar cookie.
Ooh. I love sugar cookies too, especially you're you're one smart cookie. Who else do we have left?
I'm Rachel in Hatton, and I like the double chocolate chip cookies, as much chocolate as you can pack in. That's what I want.
I like it, Rachel. Well, good morning,
Morning.
Rachel. You're
You're
one
one
smart
cookie.
Hi, I'm Lindy. I am with the After School Network and Child Care Aware of North Dakota, and I'm located in Bismarck. And my favorite cookie is also a sugar cookie.
Whoa, lots of sugar cookies too. You guys just like sugar, just sugar, plain good old lots of sugar. And did you say it's Wendy?
Lindy.
Lindy.
L.
Okay, I'm glad I asked. Well, good morning,
Lindy. You're one
smart cookie.
cookie.
I'll go. My name's Lindsay. I'm with the After School Network, and my favorite cookie is the salted caramel cookies.
Ooh,
Ooh.
those sound really good. I might have to get that recipe. That sounds really
I'm
good.
in Fargo, so
You're in Fargo. Okay, and tell me your name again.
Lindsay.
Lindsay. Okay, so good morning,
morning,
Lindsay. You're one smart cookie. Is everybody gone? Yeah, Kristen, we haven't heard from you.
Good morning. My name is Kristen. I'm with the North Dakota After School Network, and my favorite cookie is an Oreo.
Oh, that's like my second favorite. Wow. Good morning.
Good morning,
Kristen.
Kristen.
You're
one smart cookie.
Well, this is just, I hope I got everybody. I don't want to leave anybody out. It's kind of nice to have a smaller group today. But this is just a great way to kind of do a check-in with kids. Like I got to check in with you, kind of find out your name and where you're from. And it's just kind of a fun thing to do. So anyway, now that we kind of know, do you guys know each other, by the way? Some? Okay. We're going to go ahead and dive in. So let me get going here. As Kristen mentioned, I am from 2x2 Character Development. We are located here in Dubuque, Iowa. We've been around for 18 years. We're a nonprofit organization. To give you a little background on myself, besides loving peanut butter cookies, I was a elementary teacher for over 20 years. And one of the things that happened during my teaching career was the Columbine shooting. That was in 1999. So I will never forget it. And that is something that I kind of reevaluated what I was doing in life. And I loved teaching, but I just felt there was a lot more that I could do. And also, that was our time during No Child Left Behind. And that was really being pushed on educators that all we were supposed to do was reading, writing, math. It was just academics. Everything like outdoor ed, everything that when you're building relationships with kids was kind of like, we don't have time for that. We don't have time. They called it more like the fluff, like trying to teach kindness or respect or responsibility, or the number one trait, empathy. It was just like, you know what, we don't have time for that in the school. They really, felt that was not a place in school. My mom's also a teacher. My grandma was a teacher. And actually my son is a teacher today. So we really kind of put our heads together and said, you know what, we need to do more. We ended up going out and researching. At that time, character education, as you know, our name is character development. Now, obviously, we hear it, social emotional learning, and yikes, sometimes that's getting a bad name. But bottom line, we're just trying to create or empower kind-hearted kids. So that's how 2x2 formed. And in 2005, we started our nonprofit. And what we do is we actually develop our curriculum here along with counselors, administrators, you name it, after school professionals, everybody that's in a youth setting, and then looking at the national experts that have the research and the evidence-based programming that works and what doesn't work. So that's just a little bit about 2x2. Our mission really is to develop these responsible citizens of strong character who respect, appreciate people, animals, and the environment. And that's the cool thing about 2x2. It's all about not just people, but animals and the environment, so all living things. If you take a look at our logo real quick, can anybody unmute themselves and tell me, what do you see?
An arc on top of the world.
Wow, they're very good. Yes. And this is just really just showing that we're just trying to help. We're trying to save kids and families. But if you look at the bottom of the arc, that's a book. That represents people, because we have to educate our kiddos in order to make a difference for people, in order to make a difference for animals, and in order to make a difference for our environment. So next time you look at our logo, now you'll kind of see those three pieces put in there. So good job on recognizing that right away. Well, why SEL or why character development? I'm going to go ahead and read, just because I know it's hard to unmute and mute and so forth. But, we really know, but let's just kind of take a look at some really important bullet points, just to really get us in the mood of why we really need to know this information to help our kids. More than 1 out of 5 students report being bullied at least once or twice a month. So bullying. A child who bullies at age 8 has a 1 in 4 chance to have a criminal record by age 26. So they start young. The more children engage in cruelty, more their empathy levels and self-control go down. I think you see that in the news with a lot today with, if people are engaging in criminal activity or cruelty, it's just like, okay, whatever. And then that empathy level goes down, and they don't understand how whoever they're affecting, how they feel. And so there's no self-control, and it just keeps going on. Social emotional learning really helps us to blend thinking and feeling in order to make the best decisions. So kind of really relating to the other bullet point, you have to be able to feel and understand your emotions in order to make good decisions. And our decisions really guide our life, so social emotional learning or character development sets our children up to make the best decisions possible. So that's why we're here today, is to really dive into this. And really, I want to take you on, a journey, but I want to take an SEL journey with you first to kind of really see where you are as far as your core values, what's important to you, and so forth. So strengthening our journey. How do you strengthen, someone else's social emotional journey? And we have to attend to our own. Being emotionally healthy, will help you prioritize and support children in their own development. So, it's what you value. So whatever you value, you pass that on. And, we talk about role modeling. It's still true today. I love this map because, as Kristen kind of said at the beginning, we're going to take a look at core values and how can we help kids implement kindness and responsibility and respect and so forth. One of the things that I have learned through these 18 years, we really just focused on core values in the beginning. But now we have learned how to strengthen them through different competencies. And I love it that we're really teaching now kids self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and then that all leads to making responsible decisions. So as an organization, we've really matched up a lot of our core values with really deepening our program. And just a really quick example of one of the things, and you may have changed this and seen this in your work, of how we start really talking more to kids about kindness. Well, what is that? Well, if you got to learn to be kind to yourself. So you have to be very aware of your emotions and what you care for. We used to have the definition of kindness just being caring and compassionate. So think about that for a minute. You're telling kids to be caring and compassionate. Okay, that seems like kindness. Okay, but we changed it to kindness as being helpful and friendly to all living things. Do you see how the second one, kids can say, oh, I'm being helpful during math, or in the after school program, I'm helping someone with their homework, or I'm friendly to somebody. They can identify that a lot easier. So that's just being self-aware of, am I a helpful person? Am I friendly? Let's talk about that. So that just gives us an example how we can combine core values with the SEL competencies. So let's take a look at our core values. Here's a huge list of core values. And what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at these and pick out one or two of them that really speaks to you. What is very important to you? These are great core values, but which ones are kind of rise to the top for you? So I'm just going to give you, about 30 seconds to kind of take a look at all of these words. And we're going to come back and share which value is close to your heart, what it means to you, and what it motivates you to do. Okay, so take a look, and we'll just be quiet here just for about 30 seconds, and then I'll pipe back in. Okay. Let me go ahead and share gosh, a lot of these core values really speak to me, but I'm going to pick out kindness. And I have an example to share of something that just recently happened. And I was so glad to hear this story, because sometimes, you know how you go every day and just say, am I making a difference? Are we teaching kids how to be kind? Are we teaching kids how to be empathetic? But this one is very important to me. And I'm going to just share, I told you earlier that my son is a teacher as well. And he's in his second year of teaching at high school. He's with juniors mainly, but he is with multi-cat, you know, a lot of the behavior kids and so forth. And the stories he tells me, I just, wow, you know, I just, gosh, if we could just be kind, that's what I always think. But he told me a story the other day. It was during passing, and a young man, he was actually a junior, was walking in, turning the corner quickly, and in his backpack, he had a container of milk for lunch, and the lid must have been loose. It just exploded everywhere, where it's just leaking out of his backpack. He was mortified, absolutely mortified. TJ, my son, like I said, happened to be walking by. He stopped. He helped him. He goes, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Helped him get cleaned up, because you know, milk too, it stinks. It's sticky. Everything in his backpack was ruined. And he just took the time to help him through and get things together so he could continue his day. So I thought that was really nice of TJ. That's very kind. You know, talk about being helpful and friendly. He was doing that. So as a mom, I was proud of him. He called me back that night and he said, wow, this is what I got, you know, from this student. His name was Kyle, and he wrote him an email. So I'm going to read that to you. He said, I really hope I'm writing to the right guy, because he didn't know TJ as a teacher. And if I am, I just want to say thank you so much for your kindness and helpfulness to me today when I ran into you in the event entrance. You may think you didn't do anything big, but it had a large impact on me and my mood. Just that little check-in was one of the few positives of my day, and my day could have had a much different outcome if you would not have done what you did for me. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness and your time to make me feel better. We need more people like you. Thank you. I was just like, wow, that came from a student. It gives me hope. And in the same breath, I then read TJ's response to the student, and he said, you bet, dude. He said, I totally understand your frustration and the reasons why your day was not going well. I'm happy I ran into you and was able to help a little. I also really appreciate this email. You made my day. Thanks for sharing. If you ever need anything, I'm always here. So that little bit of kindness went so far for one student, but also for that teacher, which happened to be TJ. But that's why kindness is one of my top core values. I really think people can be kind. Kindness is just hard. I think we tell kids to be kind, but kindness is hard. We have to work at it. TJ had to take the time to stop. He could have kept going. How many, we're always in a hurry. We have a plan. We have goals for the day. He could have just said, oh, are you okay? And kept walking, but he stayed. He helped them through to the end. And that was being helpful and friendly. So that's my core value. Would anybody like to share their core value and what it means to them and, what it motivates you to do?
I think one of mine is definitely, there's a lot on this list here, but just thankfulness, like just sharing how thankful you are for the people or things or anything that encounters your life. As building principal, I meet with my staff every Friday afternoon, and we start our meetings with what are you thankful for? And it just really shifts your perspective, not in a way that says like, I don't have to come to work, I get to come to work, and just sharing that gratitude, because when you realize that, your perspective really changes into how lucky we all are. So thankfulness is big for me. It's one in my professional and personal life, I would say, even with my own children. every night at dinner, we have to say what we're thankful for that day. And we're really bumping it up from 1 to 5, which is kind of like depending on, but just really taking the smallest things that you can be thankful for. So
I love it. And, I was so thankful for that student to thank TJ. And TJ, I mean, there are days, he's his second year of teaching, and there are days he comes home, he's like, I mean, he's gotten hit with a chair, you name it, he's been through it. And I don't want him to give up. The kids need him. He's a good role model. But that little bit of thankfulness from that student absolutely got him going through the rest of the week. And I agree with you. That's a great core value. Thank you for sharing.
And as our whole school right now, we do a monthly character trait, and we have, like, for November, it's being thoughtful. And then just being able to track that for our students. We have a bulletin board in our school, and it rolls over into the ESP program as well. But how our students are being thankful, like, they need to genuinely be taught to stop and say, how are you? And then when they're like praised for that, they're like, oh, that was easy. I don't know, just it's a little lesson for kids just to say, like, how was your day? We don't, cultivate that enough.
I agree. And it's taking the time and then to really listen, and kids have to learn that, maybe they don't say, oh, it's fine. How many times I'm good, it's fine. But, really being able to share, and that just takes time to build those relationships. But it's hard. I agree, to take the time and be thankful, and thoughtful. So thank you for sharing. Who else?
For me, I would say empathy. I think empathy goes hand in hand with like understanding for me. Being able to understand have an understanding for people's situations and what they might be going through, because I feel like even like I can tend to get stuck in my own, like, oh, like, why didn't you respond this quickly? I mean, I sent this to you a while ago, so like stuff like that, like even like in my own personal life, but like, okay, but like they might be really busy. Like, you need to understand that doesn't always, like, your time isn't going to work with other people, and understand that just because you want things a certain way, I don't know, it makes me more empathetic as well.
Excellent. And that is, I'm sure you all have heard that, but it's the number one trait we need to be teaching our kids. And I actually have a little story to go along with empathy. In just a little bit, we're going to talk about the Kindhearted Kids program that we do here at 2x2. You can see my little friends back here. But we'll talk, like I said, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we do have a kitten that's named Mr. Nick. And one of the kids in the program received Mr. Nick. And at that very first day when they receive their pets, they learn all about their pets. And this pet happened to be diabetic. And she raised her hand and she said in front of the whole class, she goes, Mr. Nick is just like me. And the kids kind of looked at her like, what? This is second graders. Okay. Like, what? And she goes, well, he's not diabetic and so am I. Well, they didn't know. This was a while ago. They didn't understand what that meant. And she told them all about going to the nurse. She had to get her insulin shot and so forth. And one of the kids said, oh, that's why you go to the nurse every day at noon? We thought you just had a problem, but that taught them about, they didn't know, just like you said, you don't know what's going on in other people's lives. They all of a sudden like, oh, wow, actually she was like kind of the cool one then, because then she got to teach them all about the disease and what she had to go through and what she had to do for her pet. And they loved that. And they started to build this relationship. So empathy is such a big relationship builder if we give kids an opportunity to be able to do that. So thank you for sharing. Empathy is huge. Who else?
And Kristen, we have a couple in the chat box that I just want to highlight.
Okay.
Brittany shares, mine would be open-minded and responsibility. A lot of times it's hard for kids to understand other people's feelings or how what they do impacts others. And I like to have them think about what others may be feeling in response to how they act or treat others. And then we have another comment that my words are perseverance, because I think it's very important to keep going. And I often connect with my students in the struggles I had early on in education and now have worked through. Secondly, kindness. A small act can go a long way and make such a huge difference. Taking the time to do kind things for students. One of my special education students when I was in Cooperstown loved Bruno Mars. So Para and I got her tickets for the concert and brought her for her birthday. She will remember that for her entire life.
I love that. I remember when I was teaching too, I think we always had to have those little reminders, take the time to listen, take the time to help and be kind. And kids remember that. I love the open-minded as well. Sometimes I think today we're getting better at that, because before I would just like, oh, they don't think like I do, I'm not gonna listen. But we're really open-minded because, again, that kind of plays into empathy too. I mean, going back to, well, they come from a totally different background. They might have a different culture, getting to know them, understanding, and then having an open mind why they might think or do something differently. So love that. And perseverance. It's so hard just to pick one, because that's such a big one too, to me, especially for kids, because they just think they want to give up. Oh, but I love how you said you shared your things that you had to persevere and struggle. They love to hear our stories. They love to, because otherwise they just think think about social media, everything looks perfect. They think nobody else has problems except for them. So it's great. The more we can share, the more we can say, we're not perfect. We have to persevere too. And we have our struggles. Perfect. Okay. I would love to keep going. Was there any more chats before we move on?
We have a couple to add for empathy. Mine is empathy too. It makes the world go round. Focusing on the needs of others keeps your thinking in perspective. Also, Nicole said that there's 4 that stuck out: empathy, spirituality, perseverance, and tolerant. Being able to have different views and opinions and still being able to accept them and realize that you are probably more alike than different.
Perfect. Question for you. Can you see doing this activity with your kids, depending on which age group you're doing? Could you see doing something like this to see what's important to them and having the same kind of conversation?
Seeing head nods.
Are you seeing heads nod? Okay. Yeah. So this is something that it's here. I'm going to move forward here for a second. This actually is all on one piece of paper too, which obviously in a PowerPoint, I've got them separated. But this slide, and Kristen's going to send this to you at the end of our session today. And you can just go ahead and get this, go to the QR code, and it will have the whole core value activity. And it's in a PDF, so you can print it and put it in if you're a principal or in leadership and you want to do this with your staff, it's a wonderful thing to do, because it's just a way to get to know, where are we? If people value different things, and that's okay. But it's kind of interesting. It's just another way to build those relationships. So you will receive that, like I said, at the end of our session today. So that's just a way to kind of start getting to know you, where you stand as far as your core values, what's important to you. Our values here at 2x2, and notice they're all with animals since it's part of our mission, but it's so hard to pick. But these are the ones that we really teach in our program, which is fairness, kindness, respect, responsibility, empathy, cooperation, perseverance, and citizenship. When you do this core value activity, depending on the age group of your kiddos, they will probably be attracted to different core values that they're familiar with. And so you can see these are core values. If you look at fairness, we really have them in the correct order as far as if you look at standards and benchmarks for our counselors at school. Fairness is really pre-K and kindergarten, nothing's fair. However, I could say that for adults too, we'll say that, but that's when kids really start to understand fairness. And then we get going to kindness, and it's just a buildup to then a respect and responsibility. And then these are more your intermediate kind of elementary level, all the way through adulthood, trying to get to be that good citizen. Like I said, this is where we started as far as our core values, but now we've taken those and we've matched them with these competencies. And Kristen, I'm going to ask you to see if people are showing hands. Is anybody familiar with the CASEL competencies or competencies like this? They don't have to be called CASEL that you're currently using.
Yep, we're seeing heads nod.
Perfect. Yes. And so kind of going back to that roadmap that I showed you in the beginning, it's so important to, really deepen these core values by talking about self-awareness, self-management, the social skills, and finally making those good decisions. So let's go on to healthy relationships. So think about, we just talked about our core values, what's really meaningful to us. But I want to talk about your relationships, not your kids, but your life. Because the other part of like social emotional learning is that's really kind of gone away over the last few years is, we just have a lot of bullying. We have a lot of mean-spirited behaviors. It really is in the influence of social media, as we kind of alluded to a little bit earlier. And it's just tough to maintain healthy relationships, or what does that look like? So I want to take you through an activity. It's called Life is a Theater. Okay. And again, there's a QR code here that you can get all of this information if you want to do this activity with adults or with your students later. But one of the things that's not up on the PowerPoint today is just this little part I want to read to you. So just if you've got your screen on mute, that's good. You can just relax and just listen, because I want you to start thinking about your relationships as I'm reading this little part here. It says, not everyone is healthy enough to have a front row seat in our lives. There are some people in your life that need to be loved from a distance. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you let go of, or at least minimize your time with draining, negative, not going anywhere relationships or friendships. Observe the relationships around you. Pay attention. Which ones lift and which ones lean? Which ones encourage and which ones discourage? Which ones are on a path of growth uphill and which ones are going downhill? When you leave certain people, do you feel better or worse? Which ones always have drama or don't really understand or know or appreciate you? The more you seek quality and respect and growth, peace of mind, love, and truth around you, the easier it will become for you to decide who gets to sit in the front row and who should be moved to the balcony of your life. And it could be as far as the parking lot, or in this next picture here, or in the picnic area, which is like the parking lot. If you cannot change the people around you, change the people you are around. Remember that the people we hang with will have an impact on both our lives and our thoughts. And so we must be careful to choose the people we hang out with, as well as the information which we need or which we feed our minds. We should not share our dreams with negative people, nor feed our dreams with negative thoughts. It's your choice and your life. It's up to you who and what you let in. So think about who is in your life. that you would love to have right there in the front row if you were on stage? Who do you think maybe could be in the second or third row? You know, maybe they're not in the first row, but they're still an important part of your life. Or maybe they're in the lighting box, or maybe they are really out in the picnic or the parking lot for you. And I'm going to give you an example. When I was teaching, I was oh gosh, this was probably my 10th year of teaching, and I was moved to a different school. And my teaching partner was so toxic. Everything, complained about everything. She was not nice to her students. It just went on and on and on. And it made my stomach, I almost was sick to my stomach to go in the morning. And I tried to stay away as much as I could, but she was my teaching partner. And I always believed in that we should be doing, similar things. We both taught 5th grade and so forth. I just didn't want to close my door and do my own thing. But that was a tough year. And at the end, I asked if there was any way I could move to a different grade level, because I didn't want, that person was definitely in the back row of the theater, if not in the parking lot, because of the way she made me feel. And I can't imagine what her kids were feeling. So do you have any examples you would like to share? Obviously you don't have to give names, but of people that maybe would be in your front row. I have to say my mom would be in my front row. She's always positive. She's a great teacher, great role model. So, and my husband would definitely be in the front row. Those are how I see myself on this stage and in the theater of my life. What about you all?
I would have to say my husband for sure. He is my things that are hard for me are not hard for him. So he gives me a good perspective. And my mother-in-law, she taught for a long time and knows, the good and the bad days. She's easy to talk to about it, but also just relentlessly positive. Just she can spin anything into a good thing. And so she would definitely be up there.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear that. Last time I did this, I believe the mother-in-law was in the parking lot. So it's nice to hear that we have one in the front row too. Who else would like to share?
I can go.
Okay.
I'm Rachel. I think I would have Donna Lee in my front row too. She is truly an amazingly positive person. I have an amazing high school principal, Sarah Berger. She's a friend, but she is very encouraging and positive. And we're both English teachers, so that helps too. And a close friend
Right.
I'd have in my front row. My back rows, yeah, I just tune them out. I don't have a lot of those anymore.
So you've kind of thought about this, and you have to think about those choices, and they're tough choices to make. I just had a friend too that kind of went a different direction in their life all of a sudden. I've known them forever, and they're kind of in my back row right now. I'm trying to kind of watch and see what path they take, but I can't fill my time up with someone that doesn't make me feel good or brings toxic energy. Anybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say one of my roommates started off just front row person, and just the longer that we've lived together and the more we've gone through, I think she just keeps hopping back a space. And it's really difficult because she was someone that I would have in my front row, and then it's hard that living together is pushing her to my back.
Right.
So it's a bummer, but I mean, I have to do what's best for me. And yeah.
Right. It's not always fun. And I think honesty and trust plays a lot into it of who's in your front row as well. What about using this with kids? Think about the relationships that they're in, and you as an educator can see that, oh, you know, they're probably not hanging with the best people. You know, would this be a good activity to do with kids? How could you use it with them? Do you think they would speak up?
This is Wendy in Northwood. I struggle with this with our kids because we're such a small such a small school that the friend groups are really small.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when they, but I absolutely think they need to learn this, that if their group of friends isn't making them feel good, it's okay to step away. But then, you know, I deal with this with my daughter too. Then where does she go? Where do they go if they step away? I would love some ideas on that.
We have a tough senior class, and there's one girl that they've kind of isolated, and we just keep like, she's fine with it because she's got it already in her mind that she's almost done, you know. And we just had one mean girl come in and kind of take control, and we have small school, and we just keep like telling her, like, you go to college, your friends in high school, you move past them. And like my daughter, when she went to school, her favorite thing about college was she got to pick her friends. She didn't have to be friends with them because they were in her class. So just kind of keeping that light out there that it'll get better.
Great idea. Anybody else have an idea? Especially if you're in a small school, that's tough.
And I would have thought my daughter would have been friends with her friends forever. But her first year, she was just like totally different. They were so different. Once she saw people like her, she was like, wow, my friends were so different than who I would have picked, you know?
And how old is she now?
22.
22. So you're saying from her high school friends to her college friends, totally different.
Just that freshman year, like as soon as she went to college, she already noticed it. Like, wow. I would have never done, you know, if we were in a school.
Kids go through growing pains. Do you know what I mean? And to get to know themselves, it's all that self-awareness. I mean, I look back and I'm like, oh my goodness. To be honest, I don't think I'd hang out with them either, you know, today. Nice people, but some probably they'd be in the middle of my row. But knowing myself and what I value, going back to that core value activity, I really find people that have my same core values, people that I can trust and that I would want more towards the front row. So, I mean, it's really a journey. It's a journey of kids getting to know who they are, what they value, and then finding those same kind of people to hang with. As educators, we need to guide them. We're not going to have all the answers, but for them to give them this thought process, you know, just bringing this up. I mean, when someone brought this up to me, I said, wow, I never thought about my friendships like this, or people, my relationships, you know, if it's family, if it's whoever it is, but just being able to give them this activity will at least kind of have them maybe get to know themselves a little bit more and who they want in their life and who maybe they could maybe put to the side. Maybe it's not that whole group, but maybe it's at least some of them or less time with them.
I think another thing that helps is if students have interests outside of school, you know, whether it's hockey or 4-H or something that's not in school, that gives them another group of friends or people that they can have relationships with.
Absolutely. That's a great thought and a great thing to, remind kids of. It's just not the kids that you're in class with. There are other settings. There's church, there's, baseball and music and all kinds of other things. And if maybe they're not in those, that's maybe something that we can encourage or help them be a part of and finding some different relationships. So thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. Again, that you can go ahead and download that, and you can do that activity and everything I read. If you'd like to do it with a group of adults or with kids. Just to think about what the past was, we used to just say, just behave. I just think when I was in 6th grade, and oh my goodness, my teacher's name was Mr. Hickey, of all names, Mr. Hickey. But everybody loved him, and if somebody was out of line, he just behave, and they did. But today we need to teach them these same skills, just like what we've been talking about today. And so really our number one goal as educators is to really send kids that are socially and emotionally stable children into the world. Well, how do we do this? How do we build those relationships using the meaning core values that we were all just talking about? So let's just talk about some things that are just ideas. This isn't the end all or be all, but some of the things that we do and encourage here at 2x2 is having those community meetings or those check-ins. And then also doing some, incorporating the literature that talks about the different core values. So really picking out literature that is meaningful to kids that maybe is talking about kindness or empathy and so forth. And then bringing it in some fun play where it's in cheers, songs, or poems. So I'm going to just show you now, hopefully this will work. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to go to some links to give you some ideas of a community meeting, a piece of literature, and some cheer songs and poems. And actually, I believe I picked a song or a cheer today. So let me see if I can do this. And all right. Where are we here? We're gonna stop that for a minute. Oh, I can see all of you. It's nice to see your faces. All right, and so now I'm gonna share. Okay, I think Kristen, this is what it did to us a little bit earlier.
Yep, it's saying it's screen sharing, but we can't see anything.
Right, yeah, it says your screen sharing is paused. So let's stop the share here for a minute. Let me just see if I can open this up a little bit different way. Now we're going to try this. Oh, I think we might get it.
Yep, good to go.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is just an example, and I know you do community meetings where this is just a great way to check in. It was funny that child, or I should say the junior in high school, said to TJ, thank you for checking in. It was a check-in for him. So people call this a different thing, but to me, a community meeting, if you're in a elementary classroom, you're in an after-school session, this is a great way just to start, because you don't know what kids are bringing to you in that setting. You don't know what happened in that morning on the bus or what happened at school and they're coming after school. So just starting off in that positive way. This is, like I said, really your one smart cookie is a great way to greet kids. You could do that to start off a community meeting. This is another one. It says, you're my kind of kind. So this is just where basically students, here's the directions right here. Students sit in a circle. Students volunteer or select to share. And what you're going to do is you're going to be thinking of, that something that a way that you are kind to any living thing. It could be so to a person you were kind to maybe throughout the week or yesterday or during the day. And like I said, it could be for a person and an animal or the environment. And then you go around the circle and share. So I might say, I was kind to my dog by taking him for an extra walk. And again, kids can all respond by saying, well, good morning, or maybe it's good afternoon, Kristen, you're my kind of kind. And you go around and just let kids think about the positive things that maybe they did for someone else, or it could be someone did for them. So this is just a great way to greet. So having that community meeting where they're greeting. And then if you wanted to engage them further along, this is just a great activity to have up in your room all the time. And it's have a T chart where kids can go up and write on it, where they would put somebody's name and then just say, well, help Susie by explaining a math problem to her. You know, either I could write that as the teacher, that I observed that, or kids could go up and say, you know, Lisa, you know, helped me, you know, pick up my box of crayons because they exploded on the way to art class. But just keeping a T chart so it's visible in front of, I love the idea of the bulletin board that you all shared earlier, but just having that visible and in front of us all the time. So this is just one example of tons of things. These are actually in our toolkits of character that focus on certain core values. This happens to be kindness, but all of these community meetings have a focus. So be thinking about that. If you're really trying to structure a classroom, an after school setting, whatever educational setting you're trying to structure, think about the core values that you want to instill and have those as your focus. So in these check-ins, they're always focused around a certain core value. So this is an example of a community meeting to help build those relationships. Here is an example of a literature link. This is called the kindness quilt. And again, this is geared towards little people. But what a great story. And this is again in our toolkits showing one of many different pieces of literature you can pick up and read to your kids. This one I love because after you talk about the kindness quilt, because the story really begins in Mrs. Bloom's classroom, and she's reading The Lion and the Mouse. And that's a great example of how, you know, the mouse helps the lion and vice versa. The kids actually make a quilt. And again, you can put it up as a bulletin board. So using literature is a great way to build those relationships and to think about who they are and what's meaningful to them. And finally, this is just a cheer. Oh my goodness, these toolkits have ideas of using familiar tunes. This one happens to be the Addams Family. And it's just, we are kind, clap, clap, we are kind, clap, clap, we are kind, we are kind, we are kind. We say hello to people, we pet our animals, we pick up litter and take care of our earth. You can tell I'm not a singer. We are kind, we are kind, we are kind, we are kind, we are kind. Little things just to do in those times, those dead times, or kids are getting tired during math class, to say, oh, let's stand up and let's do our kind cheer. So just some ideas of, you know, to emphasize core values throughout your day or your session, or your class time, and trying to build those relationships. Any questions on those? Okay, I'm going to stop the share. Hello again, and I am going to reshare. We'll go back up to our PowerPoint. Okay, can you see okay?
Yep, looks good.
All right. So also some of the ways you can build those relationships, I think family is the number one we need to be including, but it's the hardest piece to, get parents and grandparents and any caregivers on our page of what's, important to the kids as far as, what we value and how we want to treat each other. But by including the family is great. You can, I should say this family piece that I'm going to share with you has like activities at home. It has quotes, it has literature. This is just an example. We have a whole handbook. It's called the Family Toolkit of Character. And it's so easy. So to be able to send like little activities home like this to parents of what they can do. This one happens to be about empathy. You can see in the core value on the side there. And it's just talks about, well, how can we put basically our feet into their paws or whatever animal we're talking about. It gives a short activity for the parents to do at home. Just like when they're in the car or they're out walking and they might see an animal like a horse at a pasture or a bird singing in the tree. And you might ask us questions like, well, what do you think their day is like? If they could tell you something, what would it be? What makes them most afraid? What makes them happy? Okay, so think about those types of questions, trying to have kids build empathy just for animals. And for some reason, and you'll see why in just a minute, it just seems like it is easier to talk about empathy sometimes through animals first, and then we can relate it to people. But again, this is just an example of how we can help parents get on board by sending activities with them, or if you have a parents' night doing one of these activities, again, trying to get them on your page with you. This you're going to love. When you download this has like 8 different family activities, a whole thing of quotes, and some literature samples. So if you want, after this, when you get this, feel free and see if those are some things that would be helpful for what you're doing. Okay, Kristen, I want to do a check-in with you. Time-wise, how are we doing?
I've got 3 after 11, so we have about 25, 26 minutes left.
Okay, perfect. Are you guys still with me? Are you okay? Because now this will be a fun part. We're going to talk about some of the 2x2 programs that really help kids build relationships and build on these core values at the same time. So I'm going to stop the share. And so I can see you, because you have to see these guys. All right. Has anybody ever heard of the Kindhearted Kids program? No? Okay, Lori has. All right. So this is basically our staple program. And we started with this 18 years ago. It's in all of our elementary schools. It's really geared towards young people, either second, third, fourth. You could even go as low as first, maybe towards the end of the year. And bottom line is, and I wish I had you guys live, because I would give a whole bunch of these out to you, okay? But you're going to pretend you are in a second grade classroom. So let's pretend, and I'm going to talk to you over this way. I can see you here, but I know you can see me looking at you over here. So, good eye contact is a good thing. So if you were second graders and you started the Kindhearted Kids program, which is a 10-lesson program, like a 10-week program, on that very first day, you would receive this little carrier at the end of the lesson. And you're just like, wow. Now the lesson was just on kindness. We just talked about kindness and what that is, and talked about, how we feel when we're kind or not treated with kindness. And then you get this little carrier. Everybody so if there's 25 kiddos in that class, they all get this little carrier. And then they open it up. And there is either a kitty, this happens to be Chocolate Chip, or there's a dog. Okay, this happens to be George. Okay, George is a golden retriever. Or there's other ones. We have over 100 different animals. So all of you would get a different animal. Okay. Courtney, I'm just looking at you. Is that a picture of you? I love the picture you have up of yourself because she's just so smiling. So if you feel like you need a positive look or not, look at Courtney's picture. It just looks like you're just having the best time. But anyway, you all get an animal. And what's really cool is you also get a little journal that goes with your animal. Now, this journal is the same for all of the kids except for one page. So for example, this one is George's journal. I don't know if you can see that. It has his name on here. Page 5, it tells all about George. So this is George. George happens to be 12 years old. He's deaf. He has arthritis. He actually passes gas a lot. Kids think that's so funny. Okay. But he's a great dog. And they just know that they're going to have to take care of George for the next 10 weeks. Okay. The core values that you're really going to be teaching throughout this program is kindness and respect, absolutely responsibility, because they have to be responsible for George, empathy, and being a good citizen. And to really start practicing the responsibility, the kids actually have, and again, I hope you can see this, there's charts, and they have to walk them, feed them. Oh my gosh. Just think if you were in second grade and you got one of these animals, how you would feel. And every day you get to take it home, but you have to walk them, feed them, you name it, and show that you're being responsible. There's things in here like for, oh gosh, is it under, I think it's under empathy. You have a pet budget. So there's financial literacy in there too, because you're adding up, well, George isn't free. So I mean, even though maybe we just adopted him, he's not free. You know, you add up all how much the food is, the bowls, the vet costs, and so forth. So once you see that, you really can make some good decisions if you can care for this pet. But again, it's just a way to show kids how to be responsible, be empathetic, and make those good decisions. And being financially okay to do this is just one of them. There's writing in here where they reflect about, oh my gosh, where did they take George? Did they sleep with them? And what interactions did they have with George? Like I said earlier, we had a kitty that is diabetic. I told you that story about Mr. Nick. This happens to be Chocolate Chip. Chocolate Chip was actually abandoned along with his sister in an apartment. So kids see all these stories, and bottom line is they see that animals are just like us. They have problems. They all look different. They talk different. They're different ages. They behave different, but that's okay. Because at the end of the day, they all have a heart. And we can talk about your heart can hurt or it can be happy. And these are all the skills that we teach through the Kindhearted Kids program. I really call it, it's really a magical program because it just speaks to their hearts. And like I said, it's a 10-week program and kids absolutely are all in with this program. Do you have any questions about the Kindhearted Kids? I know I'm kind of going fast through that. Oops.
Hi, my name is Justin.
Whoop. Can you all hear me? There you are. Could you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions about the Kindhearted Kids program? Like I said, it is, and actually it's all aligned with the standards and benchmarks that we need to be teaching kids. And it includes those competencies, which we kind of touched on earlier. with this program. The other thing I wanted to share with you is a video, and this video, actually, I just took this video last week. I was at a conference, and it was the Iowa conference for counselors. And this young man last year had purchased the Kindhearted Kids program, and he could not wait to tell me all kinds of stories of what happened with his kids. And I said, Justin, do you mind? Can I videotape you? And so here is Justin telling what the Kindhearted Kids program did for one of his students. So let me go back and share.
And Kristen, while you're getting that set up, there are a couple questions in the chat box about how to obtain, how to go about ordering them, and is there a set number that you can get, or can you change the amount? And then how long does the program take to get through?
So it is 10 lessons. Depending on your situation, we like to do it in 10 weeks. 1 lesson per week, because as you saw those charts in the journal, they can go home. The animals can stay at school. It all depends on your school. We have it both ways here in Dubuque. Some of our at-risk schools keep the pets at school during the week because they're just so afraid that they won't come back from home. If you can have them take them home, it's awesome, because the parents absolutely get so into it, and they understand the core values that you're trying to teach and so forth. But if they stay at school, it's kind of cool too, because the classroom teachers are on board, the kids read with their animals. But first question that the kids will ask if you leave them at school: who's going to be feeding George at night? Who's going to be walking George at night? Because they do take this so serious. And we've had people be so creative with that, where they've actually gotten the custodians involved. And oh my goodness, the custodians would write notes on the chalkboard of like, oh my goodness, Scooby-Doo ran down the hallway, he escaped, I spent an hour trying to get him, and finally I got him, but he was okay. And they tell stories back and forth, and the kids will thank their custodian. So another way to build relationships with other people within the school, you can say the school principal is going to do it, and then you can kind of get that dialogue going with them, or whoever it is, to take care of their pets at night. So there's 2 different ways to do that. As far as ordering pets, I've had orders for 5 kits, because we've had some counselors or small groups that they really want to work on some of these core values and build relationships with small groups of kids. Or I've had sets of 25, 30 kids within a classroom. Again, all the kids get a different pet. So when you place an order, let's say you have 3 classrooms within a school or 3 different sessions after school, you let us know that, and we'll split by box up those animals so that all the kids get a different animal. Right now, our inventory is pretty good. Last year, if you go to talk to me at this time, it was not, but we're doing pretty well. So if you place orders, usually we can get them out within a week or 2 to you. It does come with an electronic manual. It's so teacher friendly. You can print the manual off too. If you're like me, I like to write things in it. But that comes with it when you order. And if you have a smart board, or it's just so friendly, and things come up on the board for the kids, and vocabulary and videos and so forth. So hopefully that answers some of the questions.
Yeah, and I did put a link in the chat to the 2x2 education site where you can look at ordering. There is a specific out of school time button that pops up. There's also some free resources as well.
Yes, thank you very much, Kristen, for doing that. And in the PowerPoint too, I think it says Kindhearted Kids, and there is a QR code that should take you there too. And there also is, we have the 10-week program. We also have the annual video subscription, which is only 5 lessons. It's something we put together during COVID, and it was so well done and so well received. We wanted it available for parents or virtual classrooms or after school if people aren't teaching it, but they'd rather show the video and do these same kinds of core values. That's available as well. So that's listed in the PowerPoint too. Okay, so Kristen, do you think it's okay? Should I play the video?
Yeah, we can see the presenter view, but I think we should be able to still see the video play.
Okay, sorry about that. Let's see if okay.
Hi, my name is Justin Moody. I'm an elementary school counselor at South Central Calhoun. We're a small rural school district. At ISCA last year, I came and was drawn, and I won brownie. So then our school ordered 1 pet for every second grader. We had our PTO fund it. Some other parents and COVID money came in to pay for 1 year of these. Now we're working on funding for year number 2 because the kids love them so much. One specific story with Mr. Nick, that's this kitten's name, was a student was in my office with self-harm and suicide ideation, and I hadn't set up the pets yet. They were sitting kind of just like that. And he looked over and said, "Hey, what's that?" And I said, "Well, those are the pets that the second graders are going to get, and you happen to be in 2nd grade." And when he read Mr. Nick's journal, he found out Mr. Nick was diabetic and needed shots. So every single morning after we worked through the things he needed to work through, he would come to school with a purpose and said, "I need to give Mr. Nick his shot." And there was one day he even held it and said, "Today I'm going to hold him and you're going to give him the shot so that he doesn't get mad at you." Now the kids get really excited. 1st graders are already ready for 2nd grade to get their pets. We have kids asking all the time when they get to take care of their pets, when they get to take them home. And it works as a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 intervention for all the kids.
So his name is Justin Moody, quite the counselor. But every time I hear that video, I just like, because I know you probably feel like I do, are we making a difference? And in that one child's life, we made a difference because now he has a purpose to come to school every day. And so it amazes me all the time, the stories that we hear, because animals do unbelievable things for kids and they can break those barriers down for us to talk about those tough topics. So if anything, if you have a takeaway today, think about, do you have a therapy dog? If not, how could you maybe use animals within your environment to talk about empathy, to talk about responsibility, and then translate that to, their friends, their family, and how they treat each other. It's just a great way to really empower kids through their hearts, is the easiest way to say it. But these are just some things that I wanted to share with you today, as far as how to think about yourself, where you're sitting as your core values, what is meaningful to you. It's important to find out what's meaningful to your kids by doing that core value activity, finding out about how they can build those positive relationships, and they might be stuck, in some toxic ones, but for them to even have that knowledge of there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Friendship groups change. You're in different environments to have different friends. Having that conversation with them or at the adult level is just another idea for you. And then just how do you put it into place? Having those little community meetings, those check-ins, bringing in literature, maybe some cheer songs and poems are some ways. And of course, how we do it is through a lot of our programming, but I'm sure you have a lot of things as well that really tie into this. Sometimes we just need a little refresher and some refreshing activities to get us going in the right track. So I'm going to go ahead and conclude. And the last quote I'm just going to share, I know you kind of see both little last slides here, but really anyone who does anything to help a child in his life is a hero to me. And that was by Mr. Rogers. And you're a hero to me as well, because your job today is more difficult than it ever has been. And I just admire you so much and appreciate your time that you spend with kids and make it a better day for them. So thank you. And if you have any other questions before we go, I'm happy to answer those.
There is one question in the chat right now about if we were to start with 1 or 2 grade levels, what would you recommend?
I would recommend 2nd and 3rd because we really like to do it at the 2nd grade. It just seems to be, it works at that grade level. And then you could do it at 3rd grade because they didn't get it. Do you know what I mean? So you could have 3rd and 2nd, and then the 1st graders can look forward to always it. Then moving forward, you maybe just do it in, say, the 2nd grade level. But those would be the main 2 that I think it works the best is 2nd and 3rd. Any other questions? Anything positive you'd like to share before we say goodbye? Are you doing anything fun today?
Kristen, there are a couple more comments in the chat box,
Okay.
and a question about where to find this video to share with teachers to get them in the program. So you do have access, or you will have access to the PowerPoint. I put it in the chat earlier, and I'm going to put it in the chat again so that you can pull up the PowerPoint and you can then show the video if you would like.
And you can always reach out to me too. You know, at the very end of that PowerPoint is my email address. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to, you know, reach out to me and I can get whatever you need to help you out.
Are there any other questions for Kristen about what she shared today or anything about 2x2? Anybody has? Well, thank you so
No.
much for joining this session. And Kristen, thank you so much for joining us and sharing about all of the ways that we can help build character in students that we work with. And there will be an email that you will receive after this session with a link to the PowerPoint if you'd like to access it. You'll also receive the recording and an evaluation link. We'd love to have your feedback on this session, and there's also a link in the chat if you want to just take a quick couple minutes to complete the evaluation. That would be wonderful.
And
lastly,
I appreciate honesty because I don't want to waste anybody's time. I always want to make sure that what you have, and if there's takeaways, again, in that PowerPoint, lots of takeaways for you. So use the QR codes.
And lastly, this session is approved for 1.5 hours of Growing Futures credit. So if you do need Growing Futures credit for if you're a school age license program, just email me your Growing Futures ID number, and those will be, if you could email me by tomorrow, I will make sure to get them into your accounts, and then you will have that on your account. So again, thank you so much, everyone, and I'll turn it over to Kristen to have a final. Thank you.
It was a pleasure meeting all of you, and go back and maybe you can do your one smart cookie activity, or you can find that cookie for lunch today because I'm getting hungry now. You guys had a lot of good cookies. I think I might have to go right next door, and I know they have Oreos. So thank you for sharing, and have fun with your kids, and remember to hang around those people that are in your front row or just maybe a little bit further back in your theater. So take care, and thank you, Kristen, for doing the chat box for me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.